Well, so here we are at the Blue Ox Millworks Puppet Theater, and this is after we did a long workshop with the students that are over at, and I'm not quite sure I have the full correct name, so but basically the students that are over at Blue Ox, and we did a whole week-long intensive on puppetry and on scene building and manipulation and team building. So the reason I came up here to do this, to do this workshop, was because Eric had called me up, and I hadn't spoken to him in about 20 years, no joke. So before you guys were born. And when I last lived in Eureka, I think 1990, I started to work on a project with Eric here that I did not finish. And that project, the results of that project are directly behind me. These guys. To be totally fair, these were not built by me. These were started by me, but they were finished by another friend of mine named Fred Riley. He's also a puppeteer, and he still does puppetry in the Bay Area. But these are definitely a design based on the work that my brother and I did back then, 20 years ago, before I worked for a little company called
We got this building in and gutted it, and then we're going to set the meeting hall up, and two brothers, fresh out of Eureka High School, came down here, and they were the Binion brothers, Ron and Brent Binion, and they were puppeteers in high school, major players, major puppeteers in high school, and the two brothers said, why don't you make it a puppet?
Because it is an art, is not about reinforcing things that we've already seen on Sesame Street and so forth. So when I create my own shows, my own works of puppet art, I prefer to use what's known as tabletop puppetry style. So if you happen to be going to St. Bernard's and you go into the library, there's a book on puppetry. I hope it's still there. And you can actually see different examples of puppetry in it. And in the rest of the world, there are other styles of puppetry. In Japan, there's a style of puppetry called bunraku. And tabletop puppetry is derivative of bunraku. And it's where you see the full body, head to toe. Now, that may sound not as interesting as what we do on crank anchors, except that we actually did tabletop puppetry on crank anchors. When we go into the green screen and you see puppets from head to toe, we're actually doing this style of puppetry. And so this is what I taught this week, which basically, this is a very simple puppet. And part of what puppetry enables us to do is use our imagination. A lot of people think that it's an illusion that needs to be a perfect, polished illusion, and that's not true. What you want is you want to give the audience something to invite them to then use their imagination. You want you, the audience member, to be projecting your emotions and your feelings onto this character, thinking about what is it thinking about, what is it looking at, what does it hear, what does it react to, you know. And the thing is, you want to give the audience cues, but if you give them too much, then they're not doing their job. But when they are using their imagination, then it can become a very personal dialogue. And the really best examples of art and puppetry and theater is one where you have a personal experience. So if you go into a museum and you see a bunch of paintings, you may not always understand what it is the artist necessarily is trying to say, but sometimes you stand in front of a painting and it starts to work on you, and you don't even really know why, and you start to feel things, and it becomes a dialogue. You feel like you're having an exchange with the artist. And it's not the same experience as sitting in a movie theater watching a summer blockbuster, which can be a lot of fun, but it's not something that resonates with your life. And sometimes you can have a profound experience with art because it is a dialogue, it's an exchange. So this style of puppetry, I think, lends itself more to that. So this style of puppetry, of course, also you need a table for. And in this case, you know, you can see the legs, and we have rods where another puppeteer would want to perform, but not necessarily. There's two streams that I was working with them on. One was in storytelling and creating scenes, so giving them a taste for writing a script, coming up with an idea, coming up with a story, getting it up on its feet really quickly, so that they would have the experience of taking an idea and then seeing it realized. Then the other was just pure puppet manipulation, just doing the drill of learning what it's like to have your hand on a puppet and having it walk. What is it like? See if I can get this thing to walk without. I can't do it. But so one is teaching the physical discipline of manipulation, and the other is the creative discipline of working with people and creating a scene, and then slowly trying to put them together. And I think that we definitely made some progress in that, but it's something that actually takes years and years and years to do, and I was doing it in a week. And some of the scenes they came up with were really interesting. I wish we had had more time with them, but and the kids were also interested in like fabricating their own puppets, which again would take a lot of time. So in working with them this week, it was a lot of fun to see how they worked together, because this is something that cannot be achieved without teamwork. It's very measurable. If you got 3 puppeteers on a figure and the puppet's leaning, it doesn't look good. So you have to have everybody working together so the puppet stands up straight and does things, and then you have a team success. And that's not being reinforced a lot nowadays, but in reality, and for the challenges that people face in the future, we have to work together, and we have to have success that's measured on everybody working together. You can't fake it. You can't be like, yeah, I'll be part of the team, but in reality, you're hanging back. So this is a way to really measure the fact that these kids have got to work together. So, anything